You made some adjustment here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that this is, practicing with a tuner like this is a really good indication of what has to happen here, because this affects the intonation quite drastically. And if we're out of tune, you could be, even if it's just a little bit out of tune, and you think, oh, it doesn't make that much difference, just listen to the quality of my tone. Right, it's fine. But if we're just a little bit flat, it might not make much difference in the low end, but in the upper end it makes a huge difference. Do you hear how it really makes a difference in the upper register? So this is why it's really important, that we tune. Now, I'm not super familiar with this piece. Is this mostly solo, or is this the beginning part with piano?
There's no piano up until here.
Okay.
And then there's no piano again here.
Right. Okay. So you have some freedom here, not just, you have some help with the intonation. Certainly, you don't have to tune to an out-of-tune piano, which is always a thing. Those piano players always out of tune, right? So that's a good thing. So let's tune one more time and just make sure that we've got the mouthpiece in the right position. And then we'll dig into this a little bit. Okay, clear the mouthpiece. Yeah. Play with a full tone. Good. Now, are you making this adjustment here? If we make an adjustment, then we need to make the adjustment here so that as we play normally, it's in tune. Okay? Because it started flat, and then you made an adjustment. So I push in just a little bit. All right, now try again. All right. And so one of, just my personal thoughts on playing saxophone is that I think it's better to be maybe even tuned just 5 cents sharp, because it's much easier to make an adjustment to bring the pitch down than it is to go up. If you're flat, you're on your own, right? If you're flat, you're going to be fighting it the whole performance. But if you're a little bit sharp, it's much easier to adjust the pitch down, as you know. Okay, so that's what I would say. Because, and the reason that I bring this up is that on some of the upper notes, we're just a little bit flat. It was noticeably flat. All right, so let's start back here to the beginning. And let's talk about the grace notes in particular, were the very first thing that I noticed that I want to talk to you about. Can you play just this first line up until the fermata without any grace notes? Just take the grace notes out completely. What does maestoso mean?
Grandly? Something like that?
Something like that. Okay, so how would you describe your playing in terms of grand or grandly?
Probably wasn't that grand.
Okay, well why not? Start again, but this time think grandly.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so that's much better. I could really hear a difference. The other thing that I would bring to your attention is that it almost sounds like every note that's longer, you're making a wah, 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 right? And if you were recording yourself, you could listen back and hear this. Do you hear what I'm talking about? So this is what I want you to think about, making just one line. Not. You hear it different? I'm exaggerating a little bit. Okay, so try that one more time without the grace notes. Think one long line. Think a little bit slower here. We don't have to go so fast. Good, that's a lot better. I really hear a difference there. Now go back and add the grace notes in. Very quick grace notes. Dee, 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 dee. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, I really think that captures more the character of this piece. Do you hear a difference? Do you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, great. So let's move on here a little bit. So it's no secret to you, maybe the people who don't have the music in front of you are not intimately familiar with this piece, is that we have eighth notes, we have dotted eighth notes, we've got triplets, we've got sixteenths, we've got fivelets, we've got sixlets, we've got eightlets. So how do we discern between all of this? Especially, we're playing with a solo, we're on our own here, but we still have to make a difference with this. So, do you practice this with a metronome?
Yes.
Do you practice with a metronome every day?
Yes.
Excellent, that's the right answer. All right? So as you practice this with the metronome, I don't know how you approach this, but I would really encourage you to practice with subdivision on the metronome. Put eighth notes on at double the speed you want to go. So if you're thinking 60, put it on 120. Or whatever the case may be, because I really want to just draw to your attention that I don't think that every separate subdivision was quite accurate. Okay, so let's just get there. Let's start right here on the C sharp. And this right here is just a perfect example because we've got triplet, 16th note, and a sixlet all right here in the same measure. Okay, I didn't quite have your tempo. Will you tell me what your tempo is?
It's like 65. That's what I normally do.
Okay. Like 65?
Well, that's hard to put my metronome on, so.
Okay, well I want you to clap for me or snap for me what your tempo is. I'm going to be your metronome. I'm going to hold you to it, okay?
Okay.
All right, let's do it again. 2, ready? Oh, we don't tongue this note right here, right? Ah, okay, ready? Again, and go. Right, so we have to wait all the way to the downbeat of 4 here, right? Right? And so I have a word that I think, this is a weird word, but whenever I have a sixlet, I'm really thinking something in my mind. I've got one for a fivelet too, which we're going to play a fivelet in just a minute. So for whenever, right here, there's the fivelet. So whenever I have a fivelet, what I'm thinking in my mind is, gynecologist 1. It's a you can think whatever 5-syllable word you want. I happen to like that one. I think that's a funny word. Gynecologist 1. But whenever we have a sixlet, paleontologist 1. Right? There's 6. You can think of university too, sure, whatever, but okay, so when I have, I've played music before that's got a 4-let, 4, then 5, then 6. I always think oncology, gynecology, paleontology. Oncology, gynecology, paleontology. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. So this is the way, you can practice this. You can practice this on scales or on a single note or just saying it. It's kind of funny, right? But you really have to get this feel into your mind of what we're going to do here. Paleontologist 1. D-D-D-D-D-D. Triplet, tongue. Okay? So will you just play just this, tongue the first measure, or tongue the first note of that, but just play just that one beat. D-D-D-D-D-D-2, and go.
Oops.
That was close. Again, and go. Lots of air. As you get down into that low register, you really have to keep the air going. Ready? And go. And so you'll work on the notes, but the rhythm is much better. Okay, so now what I want you to do is go back one beat.
Okay.
So play this beat and hold it into the downbeat. D, 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 D. Ready? And go. Okay, so you can think, paleontologist, all right? Just say it. I know it sounds weird, but just say it, okay? Ready?
Paleontologist.
Yeah, now I want you to play it just like you said. With the same rhythm, okay? Ready? And go. Oh, that's much better. The rhythm was really accurate, I felt that time. Okay, now play the whole measure. All right? Ready? See, but now you're aware, right? And I think this is what's important. So you can go on and practice this on your own. We don't have to drill this all day. But I think these are important things to think, and these are really useful tools. Are you familiar with the composer Elliott Carter at all? He wrote at least one work for saxophone quartet that I know, but he's one composer who's really interested in this sort of thing. And so he'll have a 5-lit in one voice against a 6-lit and another voice against a 7-lit and another voice against an 8-lit, and it all has to happen at the same time. So, and that's just one example, but when you play this sort of music, you really have to have an internalization of what your part's doing, and so that you can land on one every single time. Okay? So that's what I would encourage you to think about. Now, this note right here, E. All right? How about that note?
That's a note.
That is a note. Okay? So as we get to, well, this is actually an E sharp, right? So this has an F. Are you playing this with regular F or with front F?
Regular.
Good. I think that's a good choice. So as we get there, you really have to think about keeping your tongue raised in the back, because if you have a low tongue, you're going to get a really flat sound. Okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to start here at the beginning of this measure again, and let's keep going. But as you get up there, really think about keeping that tongue up so that we're not flat. Right? And as you have to articulate, quite a bit of notes on these, are you using your tongue to articulate, or are you doing a more glottal air kind of articulation?
I try to keep my tongue out.
All right? Well, it's, Dr. Rousseau even talks about this all the time. Don't tongue that note. Just use your air to do that. Did it sound like I tongued it?
Yes.
My tongue didn't touch the reed.
Right, yeah.
That was the tongue. That's a little bit heavy, right? Whatever. All right? So maybe, why don't you just play these right there for now, and then we'll go back and do the whole thing. But just try it without using the tongue. Just use the air and see if that makes a difference for you. Oh, we have to have a high tongue. Okay, so this is something that we have to practice, but it's another consideration, because as we use our tongue to play those sorts of notes, especially in that range, or do you play altissimo at all? Not yet? But as we get into that higher register, as we're playing those notes, as you move your tongue, they become really quite unstable, as you know. So that's a consideration, I think. Let's go back here to the beginning of this line and keep going. Okay? Air, air. Gynecologist one. Okay. You can laugh, it's okay. I think it works for me. This is what I think when I play. Legitimately, what's going through my mind is gynecologist one. I think that it really works. All right, that was fine. And this is something that you can work on. Let's keep going. Let's cover a little bit more of this music. Let's skip ahead right here after the andantino, please. Good. So, question? Is it yes or no?
Kyle.
Oh, as we play slower music, the fingers move slower. True or false?
No, false.
No, right. The fingers still move the same speed, right? So as we play some of these notes, sometimes I feel like maybe your fingers are moving just a little bit too slow. So really, as we play those notes, even though we've got these grace notes, really, just think about being sure that all the fingers are correct. And what do these lines mean right here on this triplet?
Tenuto.
Tenuto, right? I didn't feel like it was quite tenuto. Think really legato phrasing. What was it now? That was how I thought you played it. Will you just play it one more time right there, and then we're almost out of time.